Hey, good.
Hey guys, so this is going to be an interesting Q&A because Patrick's setting me up here, and then he's leaving to
You're still on. I'm
to
just doing something in the
do
background.
some errands, and this might be dangerous to leave me alone
You just thought it shut off, and it really was just another
without,
window.
yeah, without monitoring. But I
Well, you
think,
made it early today, so
yeah, I think last week Patrick needed the monitoring, if you guys remember.
oh yeah, that was a couple weeks ago when I got that nasty.
Well. Well, so anyhow, I wanted to start this question and answer with, I always talk to you guys about owning small businesses and how small business can make an impact and a big difference, not only locally, but I think as as this suggests, that we can make a difference even internationally with the small business. Who would have known that a small business with a father and a son, working together would be able to draw in 26,000 subscribers. Is that right now, Patrick?
yeah,
Or it's close to it, whatever it is. Seems to be stuck on that though, doesn't it?
because we've slowed down. We're not doing any videos because we're so
Oh
busy
well.
with the. That's
But
good.
maybe this thing we're going to be doing in Lexington, Massachusetts, will draw in more people, Patrick. That's going to draw in more people, right?
Yes.
So we'll look forward to that. That's going to be April 1st, the first class. If all goes well, we'll have a full class, and Patrick's going to be filming that class, so that should be fun. There'll be a lot of mistakes. You
I'll be
guys,
filming it live,
yeah,
so it's not
live,
just with a
live.
phone. Yeah, I was gonna do it with
Oh,
a phone.
brother.
Yeah.
So there should be a lot of miscues and things like that. That should be fun. No different than what we do here. But I did want to start and talk about this customer I had. That There was a couple that came in. I'm doing work for. I don't think they would mind because they're in the public. They're in the public sphere and realm. I didn't know it at the time when they first came in. They introduced themselves as Ellen and Robert Pinsky. I didn't. The name didn't really ring a bell or mean anything to me. And then as I'm doing this job, we sold the fabric, and during that process, Ellen said to me, "I think I might like to write a story about you and the small business." And the first thing that came to my mind, this is funny, was I'm not Pinsky material. And there's another another Seinfeld reference that we have, uh, which I think is great. Well, so you guys, if you don't know, George worked at a company, and this client named Pinsky wanted to take George to his company, the Pinsky. And
Penske. Which I thought was funny
I
because
think is it Penske or
yeah, it was just
Pinsky?
funny because that Penske is an actual moving company.
Well, anyhow, and maybe there's a spelling issue, but the first thing I thought was, why would she want to write about me? I'm not Penske material. That this is the reference in Seinfeld. So later that day, I was thinking, I look up her name, and they really are famous. I mean, he was a poet laureate for 3 years running, United States poet laureate, and he's got so many. And she too. They're so accomplished in their fields. Uh, I think what she does, she writes professionally, and he writes and does poetry, and he does also stand up poetry. It's like a concert. He's got a pianist and a bass, and he recites his poetry. It's really good. Anyhow, so I guess the reason I bring this up is because you just never know. I mean, the impact that you make um, on your community with, the far reach that you might have, even if you don't have a YouTube channel. We're all interconnected. I just feel I love history, and I think too the furniture connects us to history and to other families' histories, and I don't know. It's just nice. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the jobs also that I've been doing lately, other than that job. I've been doing some manufactured furniture, and I have to say, I had these three bar stools that the customer purchased to one of these box stores, and the faux leather. We hear this story a lot. The faux leather. This is on my badge. I'm not talking to myself.
I was checking to say. I think I said 5,
Yeah,
but you got
sorry,
here
we're starting early, you
It was
guys.
4, then it was 5. Now it's
Yeah,
4.
it's been a mix-up. But anyhow, so I got these three bar stools. There was a really
Keep your eye on here.
cool hack on it, and it was It was done in a vinyl, all of it vinyl. It had a back, and the back, I couldn't figure out when I saw it, but the back, when you look at the back, it's attached. It's
Sneaking
just
here now.
metal coming into fabric, and it just like melts into the fabric. And I'm thinking to myself, I've never seen this before, and I was looking
Alright.
at it, and I was saying, how did they do that? So what I did was I cut a little bit of the faux leather because I didn't really want to take this too far apart. And what they had done, they have this. It was a plastic front and a back, and they had it sewn together, and they had these two little like finger size, and at the top angled like this, two plastic clips that went inside. If you can imagine that, they went inside that back. And so what I was doing was I'm doing fabric. These are being fabricated. I wish I was at the other shop to show you this. We could actually show you, but I hope my description. It was a hack I've never seen before, and it took me a while to figure it out. And then so what I did was I took a wooden mallet, famous wooden mallets, and I tapped the bottom. And then one side I saw loosen, and then I tapped the other side a little bit more, and the whole thing lifted off. Wasn't glued, it wasn't screwed. It just lifted right off, really nice. So I made the fabric that they use. It was kind of a neat fabric. It was kind of like a plaid, and I made patterns for it, and I sewed the tops, and I independently I took it off, and I put it over. It went together really nice, and the bottom, because the bottom was separated because of these two plastics, it tucked in really nice. And it really looked good when I was done. It didn't take me a long. Excuse me. It didn't take me a long time either. So another thing you can do to try to make a little bit of money, it's not cheating, but this happens to be a pattern. And I thought the seat too would look better if it just was pulled over before it was boxed and stitched. And I thought, not that I was cheating, I just thought, and this is a customer that just said, whatever you think. So I pulled it over, and it looks better because you're not breaking up the pattern. The padding pattern has a natural flow to it, so you can kind of use your judgment on that. And I don't mind telling you on this job here. Let me just go to this job. I think they were like the whole job, was like 275 each for these stools, which it makes up for some of the other ones that you get stuck on. It was a good job. I was happy with it. I'm not done with it. I did the back today, made the patterns for the other backs, and I did one seat, so I know it's going to look good. So let me talk about a little bit about some other chairs. So I have 8 saddle seat Danish chairs that look simple, but sometimes simple isn't. Mid-century is famous for this, you guys. Sometimes simple isn't easy, and these were profiled because they're saddle seats. They were profiled really thin. They originally, so there's another challenge that we have, is that they were latexed, and the latex did have a good quality to it. I say did. I know people will say it's still available out there, but I don't use it. I don't like it because I know that it's not going to last like polyurethane. But the latex was initially a great material, but all of the latex that they used in mid-century now and for years now has been just pulverized, has been turning to that dust. You guys, if you know, you've taken furniture apart, if it's dust, this yellow dust that comes out, that's latex. So you have to figure out how to replace that. What is the best materials to use to replace that? So I have found a little tip: 1 inch cut to the surface area of the top of the seat, and then stapled. And I show you guys how to fold foam. You don't want to foam. You don't want to staple in most cases if you're doing pullover seats, not box seats. You don't want to staple directly through the top of the foam. So you've seen, I've shown this, I'm pretty sure I've shown this on videos, where you take your thumbs and you roll the bottom foam. I don't care what it is, if it's 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, maybe not 4 inch, up to 3 inches. You can roll it under and staple the top part of the foam. and hopefully you grab enough foam that it doesn't pull through. If you're using a pneumatic staple gun, make sure it's set on 80. But the idea is um, to give you a nice transition. I'm all about transitions. You've heard me talk that word if you've seen the videos a lot of times. So staple it. Sometimes if the foam, usually a mid ultra foam, if you're using it, will hold the staple, meaning it won't poke through. Other foam that's not as good will poke through. But even if you're using a substandard foam, which I don't recommend, by the way, you can use cardboard tack tape to go around that. The only problem with the cardboard tack tape is you've got a little bit more of a divot. You see the problems that you get into with upholstery? That's what I like about it. It's challenging. So what you get with the YouTube channel is a lot of the back. You get a lot of these hacks. So let's say you don't need to use the cardboard tack tape. You frame it out, about every inch with the staple all the way around. So now you've got a fairly good transition, but it's not enough. The best thing to use now, I don't want to be taking padding over and stapling underneath. This is the idea, you guys. I only want to do my padding at the edge of the top edge. This is important for the look of the profile. Again, they did in latex. They just used one sheet of latex. That was it to do this. That's the beauty of latex. But anyhow, we don't have that. So then the best thing to use over that is cotton. So because cotton, you could the AAA cotton, you bring it to the edge and you pick it, right, and you feather it and that gives you that gives the edge of the cotton just over the edge, and wow, what a great seat that makes! What it profiles perfectly, and then you follow the instruction on my pin tacking from there on out, right? And it really profiles out nice. It even takes the nice thing is on those small profile saddle seats, the corners are pulled in a way that you don't see pleats. And then most materials will work if you've padded it out right and you don't put too much padding in it. And you don't want to put too much padding in it because that leads to another problem of wrinkling. And then I'm pretty sure I've got a video out there that shows these saddle seats and how to pin tack saddle seats a little different than a straight seat because most of the stretch has to come front to back and concentrated in the middle of that saddle at the same time keeping padding straight and things like that. So this is what we're challenged with upholstery, but it's fun. I think it's fun. I think that tool, pin tacking tool that I talk about a lot of time, pin tacking for you guys that are new, it's just a 6 ounce tack that's halfway in. Why not? Why not just pin tack all your pieces until you're 100% satisfied with it, and then you run your pneumatic staple gun all the way around in between those tacks. Take the tacks out and run more staples if you have to. So that's it. So let me go on before I read. We've got uh, a long one from Lee, which I'll look from Facebook, and also some YouTube. So I just wanted to catch up on some other. So that was a project. So this project here too, they were dining room chairs. There's 8 of them. These Danish chairs, and the being 8, she only wanted to do 4 at a time. Which again, customer service. Do I prefer that? No, I'd rather have all 8 of them because it's kind of like a production line. You can set them up, but she needed to use 4 of them while she was waiting for the fabric was back ordered too. Which I didn't. I didn't mind that she had 4. It turns out that she was more patient waiting for back ordered fabric because I didn't have all 8. So you guys have to really customer service is so important. I mean, if there's another upholsterer out there that's better than you, or another upholsterer out there that is cheaper than you, and maybe the customer has a reason to go to them, but you have customer service down pat and you're joyful. I'll say joyful in your work and polite. I mean, I've had people who weren't so polite to me, but I'm always polite back. I mean, it doesn't. I think if you're in business, it doesn't pay. I've got stories of people who are kind of grouchy, who really seem to have a hard time with customers, and when a job is done, well, they never make the connection that being grouchy and unhappy and combative sometimes sets up a job. Even if you've done a terrific job, it sets it up where you might not. How you doing, Elliot? Sorry about the early start time. Um, but we were talking. You guys can rerun this and watch it. But the beginning is there's some good information on it. So that's one job that I'm currently doing. Oh, just did another job, you guys. That was a one of the hardest things I've done in my upholstery career. Parson chairs. And when Parson chairs first came out, they were a novel idea. Parson chairs are fully upholstered legs, and usually they came out when they first came out. They were like a sets of 8, and you might have had just 8 chairs that just had upholstered legs. And it sounds easy, doesn't it? They were really thin. They were like 3 by 3 inch legs with piping. Oh, these are tough, really tough to do. And some of them had host and hostess chairs, which had the additional arm, and some had cross rails. Everything's upholstered. There's no wood showing at all. Very difficult chairs. So I had a customer bring in. I've never seen them before. Two club. They were like club chair parson chairs. They were big chairs. They were big parson chairs. That's what they were. And they had upholstered arms with piping, double piping coming. I mean, double row of piping on each side coming down. Upholstered legs. Two loose cushions, a big cushion and a back cushion. It was a lot of work and a lot of fabric. Be careful with these jobs. I had to get 7 yards a piece on this, 14 yards total. But I have to tell you, I called the customer today. They're done. I really I don't usually go on about my own work, but I did when I left a message to her. I said the only thing I can say, and the fabric was a beautiful off white that just showed the lines on these two pieces even better. And I've been getting fallen in love with Van Gogh lately. I've been Vincent Van Gogh. As you guys know, I'm in Boston, and they have Vincent. They have a display of his paintings, the original painting at the Harvard Museum. If you're ever in Boston, you guys got to check out the Harvard Museum. It's free. You go in there and you're standing in front. You're standing in front. I can hardly believe it, of a Van Gogh. There's a Van Gogh. It's staring you in the face. It's self portrait. You guys can Google self portrait Van Gogh, and there it is in the museum gallery. It's right there. It's not. And I asked the security guy, "Is this real?" I could hardly believe it. It was right in my backyard. But I told Marie, my customer, I said, the only way I can describe these is that they're a work of art. So you guys out there, you guys are getting really good. Some of you guys have started with me, and some of you guys haven't. But I've seen some of your work, and really, don't shortchange yourself. Uh, I really am proud of these two pieces. I've been doing this almost 50 years. I look at it and I'm saying to myself, wow, this is truly a work of art. And there were two of them. So that's how I left the message. I said, "You're the only way I could describe. They came out so well." I said, "They really do look like a work of art." And I think take pride in your work. And again, I think that that will pay itself back hundredfold. Sometimes you get stuck on a job. I just gave you two examples. I think at the first example, this would be the third example. The first example I got lucky. They didn't take me as long. These unfortunately did. So, you wanna make sure maybe that these jobs balance out labor-wise, you guys. You're always gonna get stuck with the job, and you're always gonna have a job that's smooth sailing. So maybe you can look at it that way. Elliot says, Maurice Levin, French upholsterer, just posted a video with an interesting pair of articulated Art Deco chairs. Not much in this video, but it shows the mechanism, how the seat and the back move. So for all of you, no. So I was talking, Elliot. I don't know if you saw the beginning about these hacks these manufacturers have, and you should reference the video later if you want. But it's really fascinating how sometimes these mechanics work with upholstery. Usually it's with recliners and things like that. But it's interesting if I know that Malcolm is mechanically inclined. I think that's one of the things I like about upholstery. Also, somebody said to me, you have to be an engineer to be an upholsterer." Well, somewhat. You have to lay out how you're going to cut a piece of furniture and how if you have patterns, how the patterns are going to work with that piece of furniture. So there's a lot going on. There is a lot of artistic ability, I think. Uh, so let's go on to the next one. Um, Pretty average that one. Um, oh, and I another manufactured. I mean, let's face it, you guys. The more time that goes on, excuse me, the less antiques we're going to be working on. Unfortunately, I happen to be in Boston, which does have a lot of homes with antiques in it, but a lot of the people who are inheriting these homes don't appreciate the antiques, and they're replacing it with manufactured furniture, unfortunately. But the fact is, you are going to get a lot of manufactured furniture to reupholster and to repair. In this case, I got a sofa, a workbench sofa. I think I might have talked about this. I picked it up, but I didn't talk to you about what the problem was. So this was an upholstered seat. Pretty much, it was just zigzag springs with a piece of foam on top. And I didn't know it was going to be like that when I first saw it. But I was a little surprised that four of the zigzag springs were broken, and I had to replace that and put in a lot more foam. I had to make sure that I don't like zigzag springs. I think that compared to coil spring, there's no comparison. There's good reason why I don't like them. This sofa was a reason. I mean, the force they just broke, and this was normal use. It was 25 years old though. However, coil springs last 100 years. I had I had a piece of furniture that was from the late 1700s, which I think at some point, whenever springs came about, which would probably be, I'd say in the 1800s, I would say late 1800s. I bet you guys probably know more. You guys can Google that and find out. But this chair definitely, at some point, was they added coil springs. But these coil springs were on there since 18, like whatever the late 1800s were. And they were still performing on the top. It was just the bottom that needed to be fixed. So there you go. Had a customer call me. I did work like a year or two ago, and she used my fabric. And at first, when she called, I wasn't sure she needed more of the fabric. And I guess this is what I wanted. Another shout out to my fabric that I use, Greenhouse Fabrics. And there's something to be said about a solid company, about a company that's stationed here in America where I'm working. If you're in France, you maybe want a French company, but solid and stable and consistent. They had the fabric. Bottom line, they had the fabric that I had used, and I was so happy because she wanted 4 throw pillows. So I'm able to get the fabric. So um, oh, then I and then it's a small world. So I'm doing work for another client, and I was mentioning this story I talked to you about earlier about the Pinsky story, and this customer knew them. And said, "Tell them I said hello." Purely by coincidence, I don't think they referred each other to me. It was just an idea that it's word of mouth again. Small world. So you always getting back to customer service. I hate to preach too much about it, but it's true. I still get word of mouth, even with all this social media stuff. That thank God Patrick does this because I wouldn't know what to do with it. But that, along with that, and then the good old fashioned word of mouth. I mean, and then the combination of the two seem to bring new customers, and customers back. So keep that in mind. I got another. I got a set of Victorian pieces, antique pieces that were inherited by a grandson. The grandmother lived in Baltimore, and the pieces had been covered for many, many years. And we're talking like original Victorian pieces. They're the beautiful ones with the upholstered seats and the tufting in the backs. There's a settee and a host and hostess chairs and 2 side chairs, all done in the same fabric, all with the same treatment. It's unbelievable. They're in really good shape, but they do need to be recovered. And so, he's exploring that with his mother about, what fabric to use. And they've got what they're trying to do. And I don't disagree with this because he's younger, he's trying to modernize them a little bit. And so their idea on the Victorian settee has an interior that's tufted, and they want to maybe put in a beautiful, like I call it a Van Gogh type fabric with maybe a floral fabric or something not a floral for him, but something interesting for him, like a piece of art in the way of a piece of fabric, something that that will be played with on on the main color, like a color in there. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but it is an oval shaped interior that's tufted now. That they asked me, can I untuft it? Sure, I can untuft it and make it a solid piece, and they put this fabric in. I think it's a good idea. I've never done that before, but it's a way of appeasing the young man because he really wants his grandmother's furniture, but I think he wants to do a little bit of a different, a more modern take on it. So let me get to the YouTube. We'll do the YouTube first. And again, if you guys probably will be joining me in a little while. We started early. Today got really messed up because of what happened today, of the winds. I was waiting for somebody at the shop, so I told Patrick that I was going to be running late initially, and then this person didn't show up. I called them and I said, "Where you going? What's going on?" And a tree fell on their house, so they weren't going to be able to come in. And so I got here early, so that's why we're doing this early. Um, we got fixing a pop button. This is what would you do if the tufting released so it wasn't tufted anymore? So what? That's a good question. A really good upholsterer can actually Patrick's dad.
How's it going?
Good.
Anybody on?
Yeah, Elliot's there. Can tuft. I was just telling him why I'm early because of the tree
Oh,
fell on the customer's house. But this is
crazy.
an interesting YouTube. The fixing a pop button, Patrick again. Uh, what would you do if the tufting released and it isn't tufted anymore? For a beginner, which I assume this is, you could take a piece. If you have they wouldn't have a button needle though. Maybe a knitting needle, a really thin knitting needle. If you can maybe pin stitch that tufting down before you do your button work might be a good idea. But professional upholsterers actually tuft and button at the same time, and that's really a little bit tricky and it takes some practice. But if you're not sure about that, you can stitch it first, get it all right, or pin it. You can pin the tufting down and then do your button work. Make sure the pins you use are common pins and not a heavy pin or not a rusted pin, obviously. So that's the best tip I can give there. The next thumbnail I have here is how to upholster 1860 antique restoration, two webbing. Don said, just realized you were here. Sorry, Don. We announced four, and then
You told me 5.
I had to. I thought I was running late. I said 5, but then I got here early, and we decided to start early. So I would suggest you guys, if you're just tuning in, check out the rerun of this because we were talking a lot about some hacks, some manufacturers' hacks. But anyhow, on how to upholster 1860 antique restoration, Scott says, "How do you know the springs were an add-on?" I have some antique dining room chairs that have springs that are some oddities that made me think they're not original as well, but I'm not sure. Thanks. Love your channel. I think you can rest assured that if a piece is before, let's say, 1860, I'm going out on a limb here. I don't know my history, my upholstery history as well as I should. Anything before that, I think you're talking webbing. You're talking horsehair or hay stuffed. And I think when you think about, I guess it would be the industrial age, right, Patrick? When was the industrial revolution,
Ooh,
Patrick?
don't ask me that
Come on,
one.
come on. Think industrial
You're the history
revolution.
guy.
Well, when you think grist mills, they're not going to be producing metal out of a grist mill, and that was like before 1860, let's say. And then when you think about horse and buggies and things like that, when they were starting to make suspension for a buggy, what period would you think that was? People are now googling, right? But think metalworks, think I think my first thought on metalwork would be the buggy suspensions, that they would have made. But we're not talking, too early here. Furniture, we're talking 1700s, at least with furniture. You guarantee there were no springs in there. So I was just talking about a piece of furniture that I did that was from the 1760s, and I know that that didn't have coil springs to begin with, but the coil springs in there were definitely old, but maybe half of the life of the chair. So I think you need to go through your history, your industrial evolution, your history of manufacturing, to figure out if one of your chairs had coil springs. The zigzag springs definitely were from the 50s. I know that, the 1950s. um, Nicole says on a club chair upholstery. Oh, by the way, Scott said, "Love your channel." Thank you, Scott. Club chair upholstery A to Z. Hi again. Appreciate the quick brief on 217 on the live show on diagonal tying for spring edge of seat. Totally makes sense. The Parson pieces I'm working on happen to have all four sides that utilize a spring edge, with the corners of the back side being secured to the frame using heavy duty staples. Would you recommend? I don't like those staples. I just saw staples, the zigzag springs I saw with those big heavy duty staples. They broke. Would you recommend keeping the corners attached like described? It worked fine for 50 years. I asked because the instructor had me remove those attachments on first seat to have the whole seat flexible. I'm more partial to seat being secured to the frame. I agree. I think, though, you might want to, in addition to that, because they're older, you can back this up with the jute twine. That's what I did on mine. I repaired it, I fixed it, I put another staple in there. But then I took I love the jute twine. It's a real hardy twine. And I took that and I looped it a lot, and I stapled it down in the front to give that to help the coil spring. I pulled the coil spring a little bit. I secured it with I fixed it first like it was originally, like you should. But then back it up with your, don't be afraid to use that twine. Don't be afraid to use common sense too. And you want your piece to last. You don't want the customer calling you even in 10 years and saying, "Oh, you did this for me and it broke." I'm always when I upholster, I'm always looking to try to upholster for make something last 50 years. No kidding. So I'm not even thinking about the fabric. I'm talking about your workmanship for 50 years. So now we got. Let's read this Nico's shorter one first. Nico's been a great. She's they call Nico a rising contributor, Patrick. What are the categories of contributors? They get top contributor.
I guess rising if you're just posting.
Hi, Malcolm. Sorry, Malcolm. We changed the times around today, but I was
twice.
I was twice. I was talking about Malcolm earlier, though. You might want to rewind this. I call it You can tell where I'm from, right, Patrick? Rewind. How many people say rewind on it?
Rewind the tape.
Well, look at this video again. Okay, is that better? But I was talking about Malcolm. I was talking about some hacks you might be interested in. Sorry, we started late. But I'm going to read Nico. She's a rising contributor. So you got contributor, rising contributor, top contributor, Patrick? Is that how it works?
Rising to the top.
And it has a star next to her.
Cool.
Hi, folks. This is my first spring tie. I'm very proud of myself. I followed Kevin's instructions and my confidence is on 10. I find this amazing, Patrick, because really we call video one dimensional, right? It's not three-dimensional, right?
No,
It's not two-dimensional. But what we do is three-dimensional. Am I making any sense at all?
not really.
Well, why am I not making sense? It makes sense to me. I mean, I'm fascinated and proud of the fact that we could take. Michaela could speak on this more. What do they call this, Michaela? They call this. Um, there's a name for this. What I'm trying to express is we're taking a very three-dimensional, multi-dimensional trade, and we're trying to show it on a one-dimensional screen. Is that so hard to understand? And for somebody to be able to do this from that instead of having me right there, that's the best way, right? Being in a classroom and having me show you and having your piece with me right there. That's the best way. I'm proud of that on this end. I'm proud that she was able to do that. My question is, did I do it correctly? I'm asking because I've only got 6 ties on my outer springs. I'm not sure if I need to add the last 2 dots. So I'm looking at. I think Can I show? Look at the. She did a beautiful job. Beautiful job. I have no way of telling those. One thing I can't tell. I can't put my finger in here and pull with my finger to see if the spring moves. So that would be the way, Nico. That's the only. It's not even a criticism. I just can't tell. I think that you don't have to. The two on the end. I could tell you that East Lake. That's an East Lake, I think. East Lake only did four-way tie. So you've got the ends four-way and you got the middle six-way tie. So you did more than East Lake did originally. But when I'm looking at this, what you can test yourself to see if you really have the pulling it down pat. You might not in the beginning. I wouldn't feel bad if you put your finger on that front row. Let me see if I can do this. This isn't easy to do. Like on that front row and pull it at the top. Pull it to see if it has any flex, any play in it. If it doesn't, you did a great job, and you followed instructions great. And if it does, don't worry about it. You'll perfect your skill on the next couple of ones. It's not gonna kill the job because you got burlap to go on that too. Remember, the burlap's gonna make it stronger. So don't worry about it if you do have a little play, right? But I think you did a good job, and I'll leave it up to you if you want to put those little twines on the end. Now, sometimes what I do, let me just see. I use my staple gun for that. I don't put tacks in. Don't put tacks in. Just use your staple gun on the twines on the ends, just to save your wood, because I noticed you did a lot of woodworking on that. Wow, Nico, I'm really proud of that. And I think this is more of her work, I think. Maybe this is somebody else.
Which one is it?
It's a sofa, Patrick.
There's one from that might be. Yeah, that's Nico. No, that's Lee.
Lee?
And Nico's the ones. Yeah,
I already read Nico. So this is Lee's writing for this, right?
Yes.
So let me read it first. All right. You said there wasn't
Good
a lot.
post. I hate to say I didn't read it.
This was yesterday, but I'm not sure if yesterday was yesterday or
no, it was yesterday.
Oh, okay.
A lot of good information.
This is a lot of work too. I appreciate this, you guys. Lee says, so last week I started taking apart this antique couch from about 1920 or 1930. It was bought by the lady who is teaching me upholstery. I have never seen any bars like this in the photos below that hold the springs. Let me just look at that quickly. Yeah, I've seen those. I don't like them, but so let me just show you that, you guys. I don't like metal on metal. Okay, anywhere in upholstery. I don't care where it is, and that goes for recliners too, which you have metal on metal with the moving parts. And I don't like metal on metal because eventually they start making clicking noises when they start loosening up. And then what they did here on this piece is they used the metal brackets or whatever you want to call them, and then a really heavy piece of burlap, no webbing, and then they put cambric over that. You guys have watched me long enough to know I think webbing is the best way to do this with the springs. So I don't like these, but let me read further. Since one of the pieces that held the springs on the bar in the place was missing, we just went ahead and used webbing on the bottom and attached some hog nose rings to each spring. I don't like I don't like the hog nose rings. I know some people use them. I actually have a tool with 10,000 of these. I think at the shop that I don't use. I use to clinch it. But if you don't have a clinch it, I can see where this would probably be second best to the clinch it. To each spring holding the webbing in place. That's fine. As long as the webbing that you're using is, it's funny. You guys can get tripped up on materials too, and I mentioned this last week. But I ordered seat webbing, BFM seat webbing. Make sure it's the red webbing in my supply. What comes is the black back webbing. So I called him. I said, I told you the seat webbing. There is a difference between the seat and the back webbings. I don't use the back webbing anywhere really, even on the back, since it's supposed to be used for. I don't know why they even make this stuff, but the seat webbing is the best. The red webbing is the best. So I used webbing on bottom and attached some hard nose clips to each spring, holding the webbing in place. That's fine. I wonder why did they use these funny looking bars? I think it was to save time. That it's only a time saver. They're manufacturing these sofas. A lot of them, you can tell. I always tell manufacturers, although that's a very unique piece of furniture. I've never seen anything quite like it. But usually, it's a manufacturer that's trying to cut out the time. Webbing, interlacing webbing across an opening like that takes time and skill. It's a different. This takes less skill, by the way. That's another reason probably why they did it. But it doesn't last as long as the webbing. Um, why do they use these funny looking bars? I think I just answered that. We at the end of the last week started putting the webbing on bottom and holding the springs in place, so I don't have to worry about starting that after I finish taking the other pieces off top of the sofa. So this is a project I'm working on while I get my sewing machine needle bar in place and time, since that is off time again. If you're having problems with sewing machines, you guys, like this, on timing issues and things like that, I could tell. I think Lee's using an old machine, which I think she's fond of. I think I remember that from past ones, right, Patrick,
Yeah.
with Lee. So, but I have a Juki, Juki. I swear by. It's actually a learning machine. This is what we teach students with. It has a back that you can reverse it on a lever. It's really a very simple machine, and it's a reversed engineer machine from this thing. I talked about this before. The machine is a dream. It makes a great stitch. I would have it in your shop at least. You can have your old machines. I one time was using a treadle machine, if you can believe it. I'm not as old as a treadle machine. It just happened to be in a shop that I was working in, and it's great if you've got the time to do that. It really puts you right more into the stitching process when you have a treadle machine. You're using your body really. You're the machine. You're the motor. Malcolm says that's what I was referring to. Elliot says I'm not sure what he means by that. What? All right. We're going on long. How long have we been going on,
I
Patrick?
think 40.
Huh?
I think 45.
Yeah. But Malcolm says, learn how to time your own machine. Not hard to do and will save you a lot of aggravation. I agree with Malcolm on that. If you've got an older machine, that's what you want to do. I'm sure there's a YouTube for that, Malcolm, right? So let me just finish this. So I hope this project is a good project for me to do by myself, unless I need help with more hands, since this sofa is curvy and not square. I could say the bottom was done a way very different than I have seen the past year of just taking pieces apart. It is a different bottom for sure. I had the proper way to take down and the new layers, including new fabric. Remember, you have patterns, you have the piece that's upholstered, but remember this. Always remember that that's cut down from a bigger pattern. So don't get hung up on that. I talk about that a lot in the videos that we cut fabric on. Um, so what else? So what was also odd to me is the fabric I took off was stapled on all around the sofa. Then under that, on bottom end, it was all burlap with tacks, all done down each side. I think what she's finding is the two or three different upholsterers over the years, because this is from the 20s and 30s. So it probably was a combination of upholsterers at different time frames. So it makes me wonder if they kept the burlap on tacks. And last time they redid the sofa, and then just added new fabric on top, probably that, the burlap at the bottom and also inside so far. I only took apart the bottom on halfway of the sides so far. That is new fresh parts and pieces like I had been taught here by the lady teaching me. I hope this isn't a long-winded post since upholstery like this sofa is brand new to me. I really rather redo older pieces made before 1990 than new furniture that is cheaply made. I hope you all answer what is this weird vase I have never seen in the police before even looking at estate sales and flea markets all over the years. So we did answer that, and I think that Patrick needs to get his bicycles. They're having problems with their bicycles, so I need to help him with that. And I told
Well, I
him,
heard that next week in New England, 60 degrees. Isn't that a miracle?
oh, that is a miracle,
So
especially with the bad weather. We've been really having some
I
crazy
know Malcolm,
weather.
they were spoiled in the desert. He
Yeah,
always has good weather.
he's lucky. He lives in a dry environment.
I love it out there.
Anyhow, sorry we started early today.
But we should figure this out. We were confusing people. Should we? Are we on Fridays now? Is that
Well,
our new?
Patrick, part of the
We keep,
problem
we,
is,
we keep switching everything.
we have a full, we have a full boat. We have an upholstery shop that has set hours, and sometimes, things happen. So we apologize for the time delays and such, but we'll try to be more consistent.
turned into like a last minute thing.
On a
Like, I
Friday.
feel bad for our followers, so we kind of just go live whenever.
I think they'll forgive us. They'll just rewind it, right? Rewind the tape.
I guess the day will change based on the time of year.
Right. Well, thanks, guys. I think that was fun. I hope that was informative. I hope I'm teaching people like Malcolm and Elliot who have done this for a while, as well as new people, new things in an old trade, I guess. So we'll see you next time, you guys. Next Friday, right, Patrick?
Yes, well, let's commit to that now, at least. Next Friday.
Yeah, next Friday.
Sounds good.
But make sure that when we announce the time, we'll try. Unless
I know.
trees falling on houses, we can't help.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.